of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any public discussion?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you gentlemen today? And you, Tammy. Chris Nygaard, Wesley. I would say thank you if it was appropriate, but I know for a fact that the railroad crossing at Wesley is because of Gold Eagles having more and more issues and decided to finally take action and temporarily got it fixed. I also understand from Gold Eagle that it's on a schedule to be upgraded in 27, so I won't be complaining about that anymore. And while I'm here, I might just, well, cause I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to stay for the open hearing. I've been disappointed in the way the Board of Supervisors has done the budgeting this year. To say the least, I'm disappointed. In fact, if I was not a man of some character, I might use several expletives to describe how I feel. I truly pray that you do the right thing today and bring the monies back to where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public discussion? Alright, if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda and minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Next up is claims and conservation claims. Is there any questions on those from our packet? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thanks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous. And then we have a handwritten claim.
Yeah,
that was
so,
in our packet.
so this one is to the Iowa DOT for $25. The sheriff's office needs to get a duplicate title and they won't process it until they have a check, so that's what that is for.
Is there any questions on that? Do I have a motion to approve the handwritten claim?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second. Roger.
That's right.
Alright, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Let's get this one. Well, that's just the handwriting, just one signature on there.
There's a lot today.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. Alright. And the budget status report is in our folder. Is there any questions on that? Or anything you wanna highlight, Jamie?
Nope, nothing out of the ordinary.
Alright. Dan, are you ready to come up for your update? Okay.
Alright, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Brian.
August was a pretty busy month for my department. I had 27 calls with 66 messages, email and US mail, 34 walk-ins, 41 scheduled appointments. We did transport 2 veterans to VA care, Also was able to get 4 hearing aids repaired, and we knocked out about 104 VA forms of various sorts to support the claims process. Currently up to 1,227 records in my system that I'm managing. I've currently got 42 claims in the VA system awaiting adjudication, 2 that are ready for decision, 21 that are under development that I'm working on, and then I was able to enroll 2 more veterans in the VA healthcare. I think I'm up to 22 for the year, so that's 22 more than last year. As far as training, recently completed our quarterly training, open forum over the computer. We had a nice turnout for that, right around 46 counties that participated in that training. Preparing for the fall conference, I have 3 commissioners that will be attending the commissioner training in Camp Dodge here next month. And I will be attending the service officer training in Altoona next month, so that's all being laid out. Preparing for the VA mobile medical unit coming in October here next month, so that'll be something I'm working on. Last Friday, went over to the Clay County Fair, manned the VSO booth over there till about 7, met a lot of nice folks. Some people got to reconnect with, hadn't seen them in a while, so that was interesting. Did receive the IDVA grant monies from the state, so that has been deposited to the county. One of the things that I'm waiting on is the administrative rules for the recent applications and changes that were signed into law. A couple snapshot items from the ad hoc reports. August was a good month. We averaged a monthly awards all said and done, $11,838. Had retroactive benefits of $78,390. So some of those claims that were held up for quite a while got approved and got sent through, so that worked out really great. Accrued benefits overall, that's again monies that is owed to the veterans upon their death. So far tracking $143,868. You have in your packet for the handouts, kind of some additional information on the VA's $15 million shortfall within their budget. That's a little unnerving. Hopefully Congress can get their stuff together by the 28th of September and rectify that. You also have some information in there on the Major Richard Starr Act, and that's primarily legislation that was written to address the wounded warrior personnel that served, that were medically discharged, and allow them to not only receive their medical discharge benefits in addition to their compensation. Right now, that doesn't happen to be the case, and the problem that you have with wounded warriors, depending on the level of their disabilities after having served and being medically discharged, is placement in the civilian community with trying to get a job, and they just don't have enough money to sustain their family. So that's the purpose of the legislation. There's also the PACT Act second year in review, and then I've got a flyer in there for you to look at as well for the mobile medical unit in October. Currently running ads with KLGA and noted time slots, but other than that, that's all I really have for my update, subject to your questions. Once, twice, 3 times?
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Oh, just kidding. Wrong direction. Thank you. Morning, Roger.
Good morning. How's everyone today?
Good, how are you?
Good. I see you have an 8:30 hearing on the last one on here, so it's good, cause this might take a few minutes.
Yep.
So just to update you on our hiring process, as you're all well aware, we've been 3 deputies short since last spring, approximately about June. And we started the hiring process. We did the civil service testing back on August 17th. The good news is we had 14 applicants. The bad news is only 5 passed. So out of the 14, we had 2 that didn't show up, and then 7 that failed the testing. And through that process, as you're aware, a sheriff could only hire off the Civil Service Commission list. We could put 10 names on the list, and we had 5, and we've had to eliminate 3 of them. and I can't discuss that in public record, but it's because of previous, problems, so we're down to 2 applicants. The good news of these 2 applicants is that, they're both local, and I think that if we were to offer them a position here, I think they would hopefully stay for a while. We're in tough times right now in law enforcement and trying to find good applicants that are willing to work and stay in an environment, especially when there's so many incentives all around and different opportunities. That's part of the reason why we lost a couple younger deputies earlier this spring, is they went on to greener and better pastures, I guess you could say. So through that process, what I'm now working on, because we have 3 openings and we only have 2 applicants. So what I'm working with now is the Civil Service Commission is gonna meet with me on Thursday, and we're going to come up with a plan on how we can, increase the applicants on our current list. And we have to follow chapter 341A, and our commission, which you know is composed of 3 attorneys here in town, so I know they're gonna follow the letter real good, and I'm happy that we have 3 attorneys on it. What we're looking at doing is see if we can transfer in applicants from other civil service lists, or if we have to reopen and retest. So hopefully we'll have a decision on that here in the next week or 2. But just to bring you up to speed on what we are working on right now, today, the 2 applicants that I'm willing and ready to offer positions to both have previous employment contracts. This is something that we've dealt with before. A lot of agencies offer hiring incentives. They'll either offer a bonus or they'll put a new person under an employment contract. For us here in Kossuth County, we've done that with our past 2 employees that just started. Deputy Hill and Deputy Gibbs both had to attend the academy, and they're both currently under employment contracts. What we do in Kossuth County is they sign a 3-year agreement that if they leave within that 3 years, they have to pay back a percentage of our cost to get them trained. So the good news on our 2 applicants that are eligible, they're both already certified officers. But they both also have employment contracts at their current employer that they would have to either buy out or pay off themselves. And unfortunately, both of them owe about $22,000. So what that means is they would have to make a commitment to leave their current job, knowing they would have to pay $22,000 to come work for Kossuth County. So that's why I'm here before you guys today, to make a decision on whether or not we wanna hire some, or offer some type of a hiring incentive to help them pay toward that previous contract. And then, of course, that would put them under a contract here in Kossuth County. I've actually got the exact figures if you want them. One of our applicants owes $22,567.39, and the other one is $22,679.58. So they're both within about $100 of each other.
Can you repeat the second one again?
$22,567.39 is the first one. $22,679.58 is the second one. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now that I don't think we can pay off 100% of those. I don't think I can handle it in my budget. For the past 3 months, we've been paying out a lot of overtime because we're 3 deputies short. But I can also tell you that if we don't hire anybody, we're gonna spend that much in overtime. Because we've gotta cover shifts, right now, we've kinda suspended our courtroom security because we're short. And, between Deputy McGregor and myself, we've been helping cover night shifts and some weekends. So one way or the other, we're gonna be spending some money, whether we offer a buyout or if we continue to pay overtime to cover our required shifts 7 days a week. So I guess what I'm here before you today is to make a decision, and by the way, before I forget, we did just recently do one of these with Deputy Hoke. We did pay off her contract with Worth County. You may not remember that, it was 3 years ago. In 2021, we hired a deputy that was certified from Worth County, and her buyout was a little over $6,000. And we did pay that, and then she was under a 3-year agreement with Kossuth County. That has since expired because she's been here almost 4 years now. I think she's at 3 years and 6 months that she's been here. So it has been something that we've done in the past, and I think it's a decision that we need to make as a county on whether or not we wanna continue to look at that. Both applicants could tell me no, well, I guess we're gonna stay where we're at because of our obligation of our contract. But they both have come to me and said that they would like to come to Kossuth County, they'd like to start deployment here with the sheriff's office, but they're also checking to see if there's any incentives for them to make that move. In other words, we'd be willing to help them out with those contracts that they're in. And again, I don't think we should go 100%, that's too much, that's $44,000, that would be too big of a hit on my budget. but I do think we could consider maybe a percentage.
Can you refresh our memory on the price tag for the academy roughly?
It's a little under 30,000, about 20, I think the last
For decade.
contract we did with Deputy Grimm was 20, don't hold me to it, I think it was 28,900 and something, just under 29,000. Is about the cost to send somebody to the academy. That includes wages, tuition, room and board and meals.
Is there any way that you could move some of that into next year's budget with have them pay half, like 11,000, whatever, and then 2 years from now, then pay that, if they stayed those 2 years, pay that, that'd come in a different year's budget?
I suppose we could explore that. I do know that both of them have told me that their requirements is they have to pay this off within 2 years. They're required to make monthly payments for the next 24 months until it's paid off. So roughly their payments are gonna be a little under $1,000 a month to pay off their current contracts, which I'm sure for anybody is gonna be a burden. And for me, speaking for myself, that would be a deciding factor on whether or not I'd leave my employment, knowing I'm gonna have to make $1,000 a month payment. So yeah, I know that they're under the obligation to pay it off within 2 years if they leave employment.
Do you know, is there any interest figured there, or is it just split over 24 months?
You know, I can't speak on what their contracts are, but ours, we don't charge interest unless it goes beyond the date of when it was paid, supposed to be paid off. If you remember Deputy Summers, that was hired by Sheriff Kolash, he left employment early. Tammy might be able to remember better than I do, but he had to pay off, I think it was a little over $9,000. He left in year 2. How we do it is if a deputy is hired and they leave within that first year, they pay off a certain percent, second year a certain percent, third year a certain percent, and then at the end of the third year it expires. So regardless of what we would decide to do, I would draw up a contract that they would be required to stay here for the 3 years or pay it back. It just boils down to whether or not we wanna make a decision on how much of an incentive we would offer them, and you can say 0%. Then what I'll have to do is go back to them and say, you know, this is what the board has decided that we'll offer, are you still interested in employment?
I think it'd be advantageous to us to offer them something, because otherwise we're gonna pay 30,000 for the academy.
Yeah, and the other thing on the agenda that I wanna discuss, not to jump ahead, but is also the, living in the county requirements. I've done some research, I'm not able to find anywhere in the sheriff's office policies that that's a requirement, I don't believe it's in the handbook.
No.
I know we have employees that do not live in the county, that are not deputy sheriffs. So one of the other things we need to look at as a county is loosening the grip on that, because I have 2 certified officers that came to me and said, well, I would've applied, but I live outside of the county and I'm not gonna move. They've got an established acreage and they don't wanna leave it. So that's something that I think if you're allowing me as a sheriff to make that decision, we can loosen that up a little bit and allow people to live outside of the county as long as they're able to make it and perform for their duties. Currently, right now, I have a jailer that lives in Emmitsburg, and another one that lives down in Humboldt County, and they are able to make their responsibilities of covering their duties. The difference on the deputy is they take the patrol cars home, so I'd have to make a decision as sheriff as how far out of the county do we want that to allow, or do we leave the patrol car in the county and they drive the personal vehicle back and forth. Cities do it. City of Algona has an employee who lives up in Esterville. He drives to Algona for his shifts. So it is feasible and it is possible. We just have to make a decision. As you said, Roger, if we don't offer something and they turn this position down, then we're back at square one. We're still 3 deputies short. The Civil Service Commission will have to make a decision on how we're gonna put applicants back on the list. And again, so the general public understands, a sheriff can only hire off the civil service list. I can't just hire somebody off the street that comes in, even though they're a great candidate, they've gotta be on the civil service list. And right now, we only have 2 names, 5 names on it, but 3 have been eliminated. For reasons I can't discuss in the public record.
Yep. Do you have any thoughts on a percentage or recommendation or request?
I think what my budget could handle at the most would be 50% for each.
And that's what 50% would be to.
And I say that because I know what my budget is, it would come out of our payroll budget, and we have about a 10% cushion for overtime, which is approximately 80,000 a year. And that would take about, what, 25% of that or 20% of that out. But, as I said, if we do nothing, we're gonna evaporate that in the next 2 to 3 months anyway through overtime.
You're kinda at a rock and a hard place.
Yep.
I've been in a rock and a hard place since spring, trying to cover shifts, 7 days a week. So, yeah, it's something that we need to take seriously, and, again, I'm not going to mention applicants' names until we're officially, in agreement. But, they both have home roots here, and I believe they would be long-term employees if we offer a position. They both have families and roots here in the county.
I'd be fine with paying for half of it, and maybe you can find some other way to incentivize it a little bit. If they stay for 3 years, they get something else, get part of it paid back, I don't know,
If we do the 50%, what I would do is, draw up a 3-year contract, so that if they left in that 3-year period, they'd have to pay it back,
Okay.
a percentage each. That's what we did currently for Deputy Hope. If you want the percentages, if you leave within the first year, it's, 100% payback. If you leave between years, 1 and 2, it's 60%. If you leave between years 2 and 3, it's 40%, and then at the end of the 3rd year, it's paid off. So that commits them to at least 3 years. Obviously, they're under an employee contract where they're at right now, and they're gonna break that contract, and that's why they have to pay it back. So every agency does that. They require a buyout if you leave because of the training costs for officers at the academy. As far as the other, I think what I'm understanding is there is no county policy, so I think it should be the discretion of the sheriff on whether or not you would allow an employee. My thoughts are I'd try to keep them within 5 to 10 miles of the county borders. If they're gonna take a patrol vehicle home, anything beyond that, I think they'd have to drive their personal vehicle back. And the reason I say that within that 5 to 10 miles is because this is a large county. And it doesn't matter where our deputies respond from, there's gonna be, some response time. So if they respond from home in an emergency, I want them to be able to respond with a patrol unit ready to go, rather than drive a car all the way to Algona to get the patrol unit, and then maybe respond clear up in the northern end or the southwest corner of the county. It makes more sense that they can respond right from the residence. But that's something that I can work on as a policy and bring it back to you, if you want approval on it, but as of right now, I can't find a policy. Have you been able to find one, Tammy?
No, there's nothing that
I think
says,
it's just been, I've been here long enough, I know Sheriff Day didn't have one, I know Sheriff Benado didn't have one, I know Sheriff Grombach didn't have one. I think it started with Sheriff Kolash.
and we do have other employees in the courthouse that live outside the counties.
Yes, yes. The only difference is deputies are allowed to take their patrol vehicles home for response time on off-duty time, or call
Yeah.
out. So that would be the only difference. Other employees drive their personal, our jail staff drives their personal vehicles to work.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't have-
I'd be supportive of 50% as well, like Roger had said.
That was kind of the
Like
number
you
in my
had-
mind too, so I was, yeah.
I wrote them down here just in case, yeah, 50% will be approximately, I don't have an exact penny, approximately 11,000.
Yeah, 11,283.70 for number 1, 11,339.79 for 2, total 22,623.49.
Right, so that would take as I said, I reviewed my budget to see where we're at. Typically, I know what our monthly expenses are. I projected that out over the next 10 months, cause that is what we have left in this budget. And we still should have that cushion of about 80,000. Now it would be about 58,000, for that cushion. And again, not to reiterate this, but that money's gonna go anyway if we pay it out in overtime over the next several months if we don't have staff.
Yeah.
And then the third position that we have open, we'll have to wait and see what the civil service decides on our abilities to, whether or not we can transfer names in, or if we have to reopen and retest. We did have 5 certified officers apply this time. 1 withdrew right away, and the other one is one of the 3 that we had to eliminate off the list. And it left us with 2 certifieds.
Well, would anyone like to make a motion for that?
2 separate, or we just need one motion?
Just one.
for-
Probably one motion with allowing the sheriff to offer an incentive up to.
And I would ask that you add in that motion that the sheriff would then, I don't know how you wanna word it, but the sheriff will then require a 3-year agreement with that employee.
Yep,
We'll pay it off, but then they're gonna be required to sign a 3-year
Yep.
agreement.
yep,
I'd move that we allow Roger to offer half,
up to
up
50%.
to 50%, and that they be,
In,
sign a 3-year agreement. If
With
they
the-
leave
with,
within
with
that
the,
3
with the
years,
requirement
pay a
of
percentage
signing.
back.
Okay. Yep. Alright, I'll let Tammy repeat that once she's got it down in her notes.
Do we have a second on that for, who made that motion?
Roger did,
Okay.
okay,
Motion by Jerks and second by Plath to allow the sheriff to offer up to 50% incentive of their existing contract with the requirement that they sign a 3-year contract with the Kossuth County Sheriff's Office.
Correct.
okay, yep. That is the motion we have on the floor, is there any discussion or questions on it, or further comments? Alright, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried unanimous. And then are we just, the, living restrictions?
My
just kind of
question would be is
discussion
whether or
today?
not you're gonna leave that to the discretion of the sheriff and future sheriffs, or if that needs to be put into a policy, I don't know. That's why I'm here asking you. Obviously, it is a driving factor that I want an answer, because I do have a future applicant that has come to me that lives 3.5 miles out of the county, certified. So I wanna be able to know that I can offer that position if they know that they don't have to move 3.5 miles just to be within the county.
I would say write up a policy, that way you have a for sure, document saying that this is, how we're gonna do things.
And I'm assuming you want that specific to deputy sheriffs and not all employees, correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
I would say law enforcement should be separate on its own for this.
Okay, because I would, as a sheriff, I would allow that person to take that patrol car home that 3.5 miles, be a quicker response than driving back there, going to get a car and then respond.
Yep,
Okay. That's all I have, unless you guys have anything else.
sounds good, no, that should work, and yeah, get something crafted up and we can discuss
I will,
that.
and then once the civil service makes their decision, we'll come back with that third applicant and, hopefully a decision on what we do on that list, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Okay.
Do you wanna make a motion on
I was done by 8:30, what do you
Good
got?
time,
Yeah,
good time.
that's fine. Yep. I'll have a minute to spare. Oh, you're fine. Alright, we have 8:30, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for the budget amendment. I have a motion by Plath, second by Nath, is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor
Need
say,
a vote.
Need a roll call.
okay, yeah, roll call, vote please,
Plath,
Yes.
Jerks,
Yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Nath,
Yes.
Stecker.
yes. Motion carries, unanimous, the hearing is open, I will turn it over to Tammy to read the amendment and then we can have public comment after that.
Good morning and welcome to the Kossuth County amendment of the current budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. There will be no increase in taxes. Any residents or taxpayers will be heard for or against the proposed amendment at the time and place specified above, which is today, September 17th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. at the Kossuth County Board of Supervisors Meeting Room, 114 West State Street, Algona, Iowa, 50511. A detailed statement of additional receipts, cash balances on hand at the close of the preceding fiscal year, and proposed disbursements, both past and anticipated, will be available at the hearing. Budget amendments are subject to protest. If protest petition requirements are met, the state appeal bond will hold a local hearing. Or state appeal board, will hold a local hearing. For more information, you can consult the Department of Management website. I'm just gonna read through those items that have an amendment. So our first amendment is in our revenues. Our miscellaneous revenues were $144,641. The current amendment is adding $14,000, which will bring the total to $158,641, which will bring the subtotal revenue from $23,301,336 to $23,315,336. And the total revenues increase would be from $27,148,304 to $27,162,304. Under expenditures and other financing uses, under public safety and legal services, the total budget at certified $6,460,836. The current amendment, $108,272, would bring the total budget after the current amendment to $6,569,108. County environment and education started with $1,093,419. The current amendment allows for $188,245, which brings the budget after the amendment to $281,664. Okay. The next one would be administration, 3725112. Current amendment, $3,000, which would bring the total to $3,728,112. That would bring the total expenditures, our total budget for our expenditures at certified, $25,044,382. The current amendment allows for $299,517, which would bring the total budget after the current amendment to $25,343,899. And then the total and other uses, $28,825,508. Again, $299,517 for the current amendment, which would bring the total budget to $29,125,025. And the explanation of charges is an increase in allocation to public libraries to match what was given in fiscal year 23-24. Original requested amount given to emergency management, ambulance, mental health transports, and bonds. And that's.
Thank you for reading that. If anyone has public comments, this would be your time to come up and address the board. Alright, if there is none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Alright, is there any discussion on that motion? Roll call vote please.
Plath,
Yes.
Jerks,
Yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Nath,
Yeah.
Stecker.
Yes. Motion carried. The hearing is closed. Next item of business for us is the resolution for that budget amendment, which is resolution 09172401. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Or a motion?
I would make a motion to approve of resolution 09172401.
Alright, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that we should not be at this, in this situation. It's ridiculous that we're still working on this budget. This late in the year, we're almost ready to start on a new budget, and we just finishing this one up. I think it's, discussed it that the employees went backwards this year, and all the other entities are getting their full amounts given back to them. We could afford to give all these entities their money back. I don't know why we couldn't have afforded to take care of our employees a little bit too. So I just wanted to be known. I don't want us, I'd like to vote against this today, but I mean, I can't throw the county into that kind of turmoil, but I hope the new board in the future handles budgets better than what this board did this year.
To reiterate what Jack said, this is ridiculous. We left the employees out this year, and it caused a lot of hard feelings. It's not a way to run the county.
Any other board members that would like to make comments? I guess I wasn't planning on saying anything, but with the two previous comments, I feel those need to be addressed, and I guess the vast majority of the dollars in this budget amendment are due to their recommendations and suggestions during the budget process, so, I feel those comments are not necessarily appropriate, but that's my opinion. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Plath,
Yes.
Jerks,
No.
Wactor,
Yes.
Nath,
Yes.
Stecker.
Yes. Motion carries 4-1. Right, thank you. Doug, are you ready? Next item on our agenda is the third and final reading of the proposed amendment for the 9-month solar moratorium.
Here's a motion.
Thank you, Doug.
Do you have the, moratorium there to read, or,
I do,
Okay.
Would you like it read for a third time?
yes, please?
Okay, I can certainly do that. Kossuth County zoning ordinance amendment. The title of this is an ordinance amending the Kossuth County, Iowa zoning ordinance, imposing a 9-month moratorium on the processing of any applications to construct large-scale or utility-scale solar energy systems or associated facilities anywhere in Kossuth County. Findings: the Kossuth County Board of Supervisors, upon the recommendation of the Kossuth County Planning and Zoning Commission, hereby makes the following findings. Number 1, whereas Kossuth County has recently been approached by several entities interested in constructing large-scale, i.e. greater than 20 acres, or utility-scale, i.e. energy produced is primarily intended to be distributed to the electrical power grid for use by the public solar energy systems in the county. And number 2, whereas such systems involve the installation of large solar panels above and associated above and or below ground connection and transmission lines, miscellaneous electrical equipment as well as access roads, and whereas the installation of said systems necessarily impacts the county's public infrastructure, including roads and drainage facilities, and whereas once installed, said systems impact the visual landscape as well as the use of the land in and around the large-scale or utility-scale solar energy systems and associated facilities. And 5, whereas the officers of Kossuth County and the entities desiring to construct such systems deserve a thoughtful process to develop regulations concerning the placement and operation of such systems in Kossuth County. And the board requires adequate time to address those parties' concerns before drafting and adopting such regulations. And number 6, whereas the board, consistent with the recommendation of the Kossuth County Planning and Zoning Commission, believes that a short-term moratorium on the processing of any request to construct a large-scale or utility-scale solar energy system in the county is necessary and proper in order for the board to seek public and professional input from interested parties and consider potential changes to the Kossuth County's comprehensive plan and/or land use regulations to address new circumstances and technologies that are not currently adequate addressed therein. And number 7, whereas during the moratorium period, the board will solicit input from all interested parties concerning the proper regulation of large-scale or utility-scale solar energy systems in Kossuth County. Wherefore, the Kossuth County Board of Supervisors hereby issues a moratorium of 9 months duration and beginning upon final passage of this ordinance, during which the county will not accept or process any applications for the construction of large-scale or utility-scale solar energy systems.
Thank you for reading that, Doug.
You're welcome.
Are there any, questions or comments from the board? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the third and final reading of this amendment as read. You have a motion, is there a second?
Who made it?
Jack,
I'll second it.
okay? Is there any discussion on that motion? Roll call vote, please.
Plath, Jerks,
Abstain.
Wactor,
Yes.
Nath,
Yes.
Stecker.
Yes. Motion carried unanimous with 1 abstention. Alright, Doug, we are ready for construction in the right of way,
We have no request for construction in the road right of way.
okay? Next for discussion.
Yes, the bridge, near George Gunter's and Dana Arndorfer's, all the north foundations are complete. Contractor is beginning to work on the south foundations now. When they get that completed, they'll be decking, getting ready for a deck pour. The road department also is investigating, we've had some problems on B19 right to the east of P30. This would be right southeast of Lone Rock. There's drainage district tile that run under the road. The drainage district tile, the location of that has been altered. 35 years ago, there were changes to the route. It was part of the land on the south side of the road drained northwesterly. The change was that they kept the tile on the south side of the road and moved it west. We have seen problems with that road where material is escaping underneath of the road and the road is settling. We excavated, we found 2 tile. One, I believe, is the original drainage tile. The other, I'm not sure what it does, other than carry water to the south, and we believe it goes to the new main. We are patching that up, replacing material, trying to verify all of this, but it is taking some time. Once finished, we hope that will repair the problem forever. We're working with FEMA right now on both the 4784 disaster and the 4796. Our road crews are mowing. We usually have about 3 of our mowers that are out. We are repairing the others as needed. I submitted to the board, projects, structures and resurfacing projects for TIF. Does the board desire to submit these as I have submitted to the board, or would the board like to do something different?
As well as I'm concerned, just submit them the way you put them together.
Looks good to me. Plenty of ways to spend them.
Yep, so the resurfacing, is that updated from the list you had previously? Is that correct?
That is the list
Cause you're,
that, I emailed it, I think Thursday,
mhm,
and I think there was just some typos on that. But it does have $58 million, $59 million worth of work there.
mhm. Yeah, I guess, I mean, I don't have a huge preference if we are just listing everything as projects and then we decide which projects we build as we determine financing moving forward. That's an option too. It doesn't hurt to do it this way.
I think it's fine.
We could list just the projects we plan to build and then get financing for them, but this is fine too. So,
Well, I will submit this to Amy, then, Dorsey and Whitney. Very good.
We did submit the other information you requested that we submit, and she said once she received Doug's information, she would be ready to go forwards.
I did see that email, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks both of you.
yep,
Yep,
thank you both.
thanks for including us in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did have, last Thursday, a operator was cited for overweight violation in a county-owned dump truck. I had visited with law enforcement, there were some unanswered questions there. We were actually in the process of calibrating our loader scales. I had some concerns about loads that I had seen on the road and whether or not they were legal or not. We have calibrated our loader scales, and yesterday I actually took 2 vehicles. We loaded them, we corrected, the scales are not completely accurate on the loaders. We calibrated or calculated, put a corrected factor in that. Then we hauled them up to the transfer station and weighed out the trucks. They were within 0.5% of what the corrected loader scale, or corrected load, the net load was. Obviously, I guess there is human error that is introduced, human and mechanical. It's difficult to get exactly, if you're trying to put 12 tons onto a load, it's difficult to get exactly 12 tons. But our operators must know what their trucks that they're operating, what they can contain, which we have provided to them. And they then need to make sure that the loader, what they're using, is correct. I plan to continue to do some research. I'm going to be visiting with our employees about this, and I still plan to follow up with law enforcement to see what's going on with this particular citation.
Was he over on total load or just front axle?
He was over 4,000 on the total load and over 4,000 on the rear tandem.
On the rear?
that is all that I have for the, road department. Zoning, there is a community conversation and solar power discussion tonight out the, Iowa Lakes, Community College, and that's at 5:30. At the transfer station, we are, cleaning out our leachate system, verifying that the leachate system is operating correctly. And then I did have a chance with self-insurance, I did have a chance to talk with Bremer County. This year, they chose not to continue with the consultant, Cottingham and Butler. It was nothing to do with the services that were provided by Cottingham and Butler, but it was just a way to reduce expenditures. Last year, it cost Bremer County approximately $13,000, so they chose not to go with Cottingham Butler this year. So, I kinda took it from last week's discussion, there was concern about cost. And, with that being said, I don't know if $13,000 is too much or not enough, but we can continue to go the way we are. I know I've talked with others, they've said that, these consultants are worth it, other people not.
I think it makes a big difference in what you do with insurance. If you plan on leaving it the same as you have now, I don't know that you need a consultant, but if you're gonna go to a high deductible plan, I think it'd be wise to have somebody help with it.
And that's I guess right now, we don't know where that stands, so.
Right.
Alright, anything else, Doug?
I do not have anything
Okay.
else.
Alright, sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. Yeah.
Thank you all for coming in.
I took my coffee and never filled it up. Jeez Louise.
Alright. Morning. Morning. Alright, next thing on our agenda is the discussion on DD-80 assessment from our conversation last week. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? To start off here?
The DD-80 assessment was mostly for legal fees, I think that should be made noted that it wasn't for any repairs to the district.
I think a fair bit of what our conversation last was is how are we going to inform the districts moving forward of these lawsuits that are going on and the expenses incurred for them. It's more than one drainage district, this is obviously particular to 80 with this situation, but, what we do on 80 should probably be replicated about a half dozen more times, so.
We get a lot of questions in our office, Marge handles a lot of questions, and, you know, it's not fair to Marge to try to explain to people what this is for. It should be coming from the supervisors, so, that people are aware of what's happening.
And when I have gotten some questions about these, especially litigation related expenses, I commonly get the question, how are we supposed to know about this stuff? And I said, well, I mean, we get served as trustees, and sometimes we talk about contacting our attorney and stuff during meetings, but really there hasn't been any good formal process of how we inform the average landowner in every district, and I think that's something we can improve upon, so.
When the assessment goes out, is there not an explanation on there what it's for?
There's not enough room. Not enough room on that, it's like the tax statement, so there's not enough
Yeah.
room on there.
We have to, I think this is something a little more specific than just sending out an assessment. And it probably should be done before the assessments are sent out, probably in the beginning of the lawsuit, and then maybe a update prior to each assessment or something. Because those are expenses that most people are not expecting.
Is it something that we can include in the same envelope as the assessment, or? I
No.
don't think so. So it'd have to be postage paid separately.
It'd be an additional expense, but,
To the district.
it would be an expense to the district, but they are the landowners that are being affected, and I guess, I think that information is worth the price tag of a stamp and a piece of paper. At minimum.
Do you wanna make a threshold where if the amount's gonna be over X amount of dollars, we'll inform the members of the district that they will have an assessment this fall for,
I guess kinda my thoughts after sitting on, like thinking on it a little longer here. I think we should send a letter to the district, kind of in conjunction with the lawsuit being started, and say this was paperwork that filed, this is the court case, the number, all that, information to reference to public record, so that it is known when it is started, and then potentially a yearly update for any ongoing cases, between setting the assessments and the assessments being received. That way, when the assessments are received, the questions have already been answered to some degree. Or people have had the ability to ask, or whatever that entails.
I mean, the landowners know when there's repairs made or when there's improvements made, you know, that's.
Right.
That's,
Well, I mean,
that, they know, but.
typically,
With
yeah.
this, I think there needs to be a letter of some sort sent out, and, I agree, I think maybe if there's a lawsuit filed, let them know right away when it's filed, and then, send subsequent letters as it goes forward, and each time there's a new bill that shows up from the attorneys, send, let inform them that.
I probably wouldn't do it every bill, that would get redundant. I mean, we do have our claims, and that may be something we could reference in the initial letter, but our claims and like, say, law office and each drain that's paying them are in our claims and in the paper every month. I don't think we should send a letter for every bill we get, but I think one letter a year to explain the assessment particular to that situation and one when it starts. I think both of those times for information would be valuable,
So when you wanna send a letter when the lawsuit starts,
yep.
and then before we send out the assessments,
I mean, our assessments are gonna have to be set to cover the bill, so it's not like it's gonna change the assessments in that regard. But I think sometime between when the board sets the assessment, and we should probably have it highlighted, the legal costs associated there, and we can discuss that with how we're gonna set up the form going forward to maybe highlight that separately, but my suggestion would be between assessment time and between when people actually get their tax statements, that we have a letter prior to tax statements arriving, so that there's opportunities for those questions to be asked and answered before the bill arrives in the mail. And I think one letter per year, if we've got an ongoing piece of litigation, is a small price to pay for informing people what's going on. And if we start off with something in the beginning, that this case was just filed, and you have all the pertinent legal information, if they have any questions along the way, they could ask the question or pay attention to it on online records or whatever as well.
you wouldn't put a dollar amount on the letter, you just say that this.
Generalized, that way you're not.
No, I wouldn't send something every time we spend $1,000 or 10,000 or whatever, no,
But-
I would, my suggestion would be when it starts and then once every year.
Before the assessment goes out.
Say sometime in June we send it, I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but we typically set assessments in the end of May.
And May.
End of May, so if you sent a letter in June or July, they'd be able to receive that and ask questions before assessments arrive.
Even after we make the assessment,
It could be done the same day, I
we
mean,
done that at that
just-
time so that we have it tied to something so that it's not forgotten, that's my thing.
right, and you'd be able to have, if the letter's mailed after the assessments are set, you would be able to say, this is the drain, this is the total dollars assessed, and this is, I mean, this one in particular had legal fees and a little bit for spraying trees. I mean, we could get a little more detailed with what was going on if we sent a separate letter other than the small area on the tax statement.
The only reason I'd like to tie it to the assessment date is that way it's,
Doesn't get forgotten
it
about.
doesn't get forgotten, okay, you do the assessments, okay. Part of doing the
Yep.
assessment is send the letter.
Yep, and it could be, I mean, we could say within a month of doing the assessments, whatever, I mean,
But that would be part of it.
yeah, they could be tied together, but that would be my thought, is one at the beginning, so everyone has the information that it starts, and then something for an ongoing update, I mean, even like DD 110, conversations with Jeff Aberdeen. Multiple times he's asked, well, can we get like a yearly financial statement on where we're at, and, I mean, that doesn't have litigation involved at all, but I think, that kind of structure of information, I think would be valuable. And one letter a year for a lawsuit that's ongoing is cheap information, in my opinion. It's cost of doing business, so.
Set your motion.
Is there any strong objections to that? Otherwise,
Makes sense, no, they need to be informed.
okay, then, I would make a motion that we add to our Kossuth County Drainage District policy where we send an informational letter to landowners of the districts at the start of any litigation and once a year as an update. Correlated with assessment timing. Did you both kinda get notes on that?
Mark
Yeah.
says no.
And- Well, and
I'll read it back.
we can, yeah, Tammy can read it back, but then we can actually formally, we can put our changes in the policy form and then we can bring that.
The
We
policy
can approve the
update.
updated policy with that specific sentence in it, after the fact, I can work with March on that, March and Tammy on that after the meeting, but then we can actually approve the policy there too, so we can clarify the verbiage that way. Is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second your motion.
Okay, thanks Roger. Is there any discussion or comments or anything on that motion? Alright, your roll call vote
Do you
please.
want me to read the motion?
Sure.
Motion by Stecker, second by Jerks, to add to our Kossuth County Drainage District policy to send out an informational letter to landowners of any district at the start of any litigation and a yearly update between the assessments approved and mailed out.
Okay, yep. Alright, whenever you're ready, roll call vote please.
Glass,
Yes.
Jerks,
Yes,
Wactor,
Yes,
Nath,
Yes.
Stecker.
Yes, motion carried unanimous. Alright. Next is, transfers made by the auditor's office. Marge, do you wanna highlight those, or Tammy, whenever you're ready?
Did you see them in your folder?
Yep, for FEMA.
So,
thank you for your work on that, Mark.
Is there any questions from the board on that? Okay, I do like seeing it in this format, might be good to have a highlight of the other past ones here with FEMA especially, there's been a
well,
lot
then,
of questions.
yeah, go
Don't
on.
touch me again. You should just be able to push it. There you go.
These go back to 99.
Are you okay?
I am, but
Okay.
he just hit me in the back
Okay,
and said
Okay.
thanks for the bills.
okay,
Can we
hold
contact
on a
our,
second,
yeah, we'll address that. That's not gonna be tolerated.
Thank you.
Amber, would you like me to call law enforcement?
Well, I'm not gonna put up with him touching me.
No, call,
Okay.
what's Roger's number?
I'll call him.
Yeah, we need that addressed.
where did that?
Right there.
Right here, he hit me in the back and said thanks for the bills.
Well, we've got multiple cameras obviously, so
Yeah,
we'll.
well, I don't know if you can see it hitting me in the back, but he hit me in the back.
There's a
There's a law
camera there.
enforcement camera up there, so.
I see.
Good, thank you.
We got witnesses?
I didn't hear what he said. I heard him say something, but I seen him.
I heard him say something about a bill, but yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
okay, that's fine.
No need for that, Amber.
Nope.
no, there isn't.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Somebody will be on their way over.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. I apologize for that.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you for addressing it.
Yep. Alright, yeah, we'll just take a quick break here. Jack went to the restroom. If anyone else needs something, let's take a,
We've got no repair requests today.
No.
okay. Is there anything else
Take
you
a
want?
5-minute break.
Okay, thanks Marge.
No, but I
Thank you.
think he should.
Thank you, Marge.
It doesn't hurt, but you shouldn't touch it.
Good news.
Yeah,
No,
You shouldn't touch it, yeah.
We'll do that after the meeting.
okay, sounds good.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see it myself.
Well, it's okay, that's why I said, don't touch it, so. Okay, thank you. Are they gonna come in here? I think so. Okay, I'll just sit. No, I'll just sit in here, I'll just sit in here, and I will talk to them. I'm not gonna put up with that.
Roger had to haul in the court for doing the same thing.
Well, I know, I guess,
Maybe she filed charges.
yeah. I mean, that's just not okay. Hi. I don't know, I mean, that's recording, so I don't know if that's a good idea to talk right there. Yeah.
do renewal and replacement of the website.
What's their renewal replacement? Probably renewing there's a fee associated with URLs and stuff like that, hosting services. A lot of times those are on either annual or biannual contracts. Am I right? Is that, that's about
What?
the website, that's for like the URL, like the domain name and stuff like that?
No, we're completely redoing our website.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
it's not user friendly, it doesn't have half the information it should, we're completely redoing it.
Is Eric doing that, or?
Yeah. Yep. Well, he's not doing it himself, we're hiring somebody to do it.
Oh, okay,
That's what the discussion is about
so it comes out,
the quotes that we've gotten to, redo our website.
Rebuild our
Yep.
website.
comes out of his budget?
Yep,
Is that what's up next?
Yeah.
Amber would
Does he
like,
need to,
Amber would like us to wait until she can come back in.
Sure.
okay, well, I was just gonna grab him if he needed to set anything up.
I don't think so, I think he's just got some flyers, but,
I'll check.
okay.
No, in a short bit, you're interested in know if you had anything to set up or? No, I'm ready. You're ready whenever, okay, we'll just let you know, it's gonna be, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. But just wanted to give you a heads up. Yeah, he didn't say he had anything to set up for it.
Okay.
Some people can't help themselves, but it causes more
I
problems.
know.
Yep.
Yeah. Alright, Derek will be in a minute.
So I gotta jump off, we just had this on our boardroom, so we gotta take care of that and on the agenda next, so, from the city council side of things.
She thinks she is.
Alright, which? Never mind. I think I should give Derek a 2-minute timer for his thing, right?
Forgot you had that.
Yeah,
You mean he can only talk for 2 minutes?
yeah.
We might not know what he's doing in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those things, Mary Jo McGuire's, the NACO president, talked about a lot. Sure, she'd give her, well, she talked about a 3-minute egg timer, speech all the time, but
That's green, did you get it out of Boggles?
Dollar General?
Or Dollar?
Dollar General or Dollar Tree or whatever it was.
They just sell individual little things in
Yeah, I think I got 2 of them.
Good morning.
Alright, Derek,
Morning, Derek.
you got 2 minutes, go.
Okay.
That's all I'll say. Serious.
Alright, I'm gonna take one of those and pass it out. So, our current website was designed and built in 2014, and at that time, we didn't have mobile and tablets as our primary, as a primary device for connecting to our equipment. And so one of the things that we've run into lately now is that our website is not very cellular friendly. So when you try and navigate, find phone numbers, it just doesn't render very well on a lot of mobile devices. So about 1.5 years ago, we started looking into a project to replace our website, and we got some pricing back. It was a little bit higher than we wanted to take on at that point in time. And so we kicked the can down the road to try and push that out a little bit. About 5 months ago, our current web design company got bought out by some former employees. And so as part of that process, they are changing the language that they program in. And so we have a couple options. Number one is to pay that couple $1,000s to have our site migrated. Or what I would recommend is that we replace the site with a more mobile-friendly version with some new features that are on other county websites that we'd like to implement. And so coming out of that, working with Luke and Tammy, in fact, is Luke around?
He's not here today.
Okay, alright. Coming out of conversations with them, we've put together an initial proposal with our current company. I also have 2 other competitive bids. One comes in at $16,000, one comes in at $17,000. And both of those ongoing annual costs are $2,000 and $4,000. The current bid that's in front of you is for $12,000 and then $1,000 ongoing, which is more than our current ongoing, which is about $550. But the new product also includes accessibility, so language conversion, also as part of the process. So I would ask for a motion to move forward with this project. It's probably about a 6 to 7 week turnaround. As part of that, we will be meeting with each department head here in the courthouse. They'll spend 2 days here, bring in each department head. They will go over their current content, and there's a lot of sale documents, sale products out there that will get removed as part of this process. So we've got some comparable websites if you want to look at. Tammy, Luke and I went through a bunch of that, and it should be more user friendly. So yeah,
What'd you say the ongoing price was for this?
$1,000 a year,
Okay,
which we already paid a little over $500 now. So
and,
Approve the website.
okay, we have a motion,
Second, Jackson.
okay. Ongoing back here, it's got managed website hosting and content managed, $40 a month.
You want,
plus the accessibility. Yep.
want the price tag in it or
Okay,
reference to?
So that comes out to be it's close to $1,000 a year.
okay,
480 plus 490 plus.
Just a motion to approve the bid.
The online.
Correct, website replacement.
okay.
990.
Alright, any other discussion or questions? I do think having a mobile friendly
You're satisfied with
product
this?
moving forward.
Yeah, they've been very,
Tammy, you satisfied?
Mm, Yeah, it'll, we'll be able to have our own election page as well, which will be nice because we get a lot of calls at election time, and this way people can go in and access their own information, which will be very helpful.
I agree with you, our website right now is not very user friendly.
Yeah,
One of the things we run into is unless you know what kind of business you're transacting and what department to go to, you don't know how to find it, which, for example, hunting licenses. Coming from Minnesota, the recorder's office in Minnesota doesn't sell hunting licenses, so if you didn't know the recorder's office in Iowa sold hunting licenses, there's no way to find that on our current website, which with the new website, we'll have more of a, here's what I wanna do design to it, rather than I already know where I wanna go. So that should help with navigation, so.
I think it'll be nice.
yep. Alright, sounds good. Any other discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Thank you, Derek.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried unanimous.
Thank you, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
Yep.
Alright.
Yep.
Alright, Jamie?
Okay, next week, we have right now, just a handwritten claim. We have, discussion decision, set date and time for public hearing on amendment to Kossuth County Urban Renewal Area. And Kossuth County Libraries would like to periodically update board on library information. And then our regular, agenda stuff, that's what we have so far. Next Wednesday, the 25th, the auditor's office will be closed from 10:30 to 2:30 for election training. So we will be at the EOC. We have a big day planned for that. So we have posted it on our Facebook page. It'll be posted on the doors, and then Brittany will let KLGA and the paper know as well. So we will be closed for a period of time that day. We're busy right now with absentee ballot requests, getting ready for the general election, so.
When do they start, or they are?
We're already getting the
You're already
requests,
getting
they
them,
can start voting October 16th.
Okay.
We'll be sending ballots out then, but we're already getting the request in, which is great, so.
Okay.
We're ramping up for that. I did send you an email this morning, a couple of emails, about an incident that happened yesterday at the Iowa Secretary of State's office. They received such a suspicious package. It turned out to be, nothing harmful, but nonetheless was worrying. So please read those emails. I have forwarded them on to department heads and everybody in my department, so we know what protocols to take if anything like that would happen here. So I encourage you to please read through that information. And I did let the sheriff's office and the county attorney's office know as well.
Good.
But I think that's all I have.
Alright. Jack, do you have anything for discussion?
Early childhood Monday, 9 o'clock Monday morning.
I had nothing last week.
Josh?
We had the EMA commission meeting, so we went over and discussed quite a bit on moving forward for the budget and utilizing the supplemental levy instead of doing the county, like the community contributions. They're gonna potentially move to supplemental levy. Yep. So it'll still be coming through the courthouse and everything, and then going to them, it's just gonna go through a different route.
Does that have to go on the ballot?
I'm gonna have to
it's
look into that.
It's a supplemental levy, the commission can
I think they can,
basically set it up to, basically they submit their budget and then the supplemental levy goes up with the, regular taxes and everything. And then it just kinda comes back, I can't remember exactly how she said it, but it is not a new levy similar to what EMA is, the 29C that they're, gonna be bringing back. That would potentially open it up to be a separate levy. But they called it a supplemental levy. I'll have to get more information on it. There wasn't,
Was that Chris talking about that, or?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So nothing's been approved yet? They're
Nothing's
just
been approved
talking
yet,
about it?
we're discussing it, we're gonna have more
meetings, coming up shortly doing, discussing budget and stuff like that and how, supplemental levy would work. But basically it utilizes the per capita, versus how things have been used.
Is it the section like A under 29C.17, a countywide special levy?
Yes.
But don't
Okay.
those levies have to be approved by the
That's-
voters?
Well,
That's what I'm gonna look for next.
and we can do some research on
Yeah.
that and find out how we do that, but I
That's
think we
interesting.
need to do that.
We'll look into that.
So this is just supplemental levies under the county. General supplemental. So, I don't think that's any different than what we're doing right now, to some degree.
I think I still need to check up on it and,
So they're wanting to not pay as cities? And just do all of it on that?
So the way and she kind of
That's-
explained it, and I was a
that's
little
not gonna work.
confused, and it sounds to me like they're trying to, get away from doing the, tax credits back to the cities or the, members that live in city limits or something. She kinda went over it a little bit, and I was a little fuzzy on the details of it, but, yeah.
That,
So it had something
that
to
does
do
not
with
sound
the,
right to me at all.
yeah, and she could probably explain it a little bit better than me, but, yeah, it sounds like there's gonna be discussion, and I think it's gonna be in the October agenda for doing, moving forward with the supplemental levy.
Are you guys meeting monthly now? Or claims
Are
or-
they, yeah,
So the discussion about the claims was that on the current bylaws, it has that there's a few, I know the chair, the director, and I think one other person was named as being able to sign off on the bills, the claims. And that's how the bylaws read, and the commission approved of those bylaws, so that is how they are handling their claims. And that's kind of been in the bylaws for quite some
that
time.
all of those have to do it, or just one of those?
It didn't, I'd have to look back at the bylaws, but I think it was, just one.
Well, they have to do that anyway as a department head for turning
Right.
stuff in, but. Okay, that's not much of a review from the commission.
So the other thing that was discussed was the lease. They would like to know more information of how we are going to do the lease. That, I discussed that we'd bring it up and possibly have another workshop to discuss, the details of the lease. Are we going to split the utility bills, or are the utility bills going to come to us, and then we're going to, charge a monthly rent, or, exactly how that's supposed to work. They've, pretty much just discussed that they're gonna do a 45-45-10 split between, 45 being EMA, 45 being EMS, and then the 10 was going to be the E911. That's how they wanna, discuss splitting the utility bills, but there's still some confusion as to, are they going to get the utility bills and then they split them, or are the utility bills gonna come back to us?
It's the board's building, and
Yep,
we're
and that's
paying
kinda how I
bills.
explained it to them, but there's, some confusion as to, are we going to just charge a monthly rent? Is that part of the lease?
Well. I don't know, and we could have a specific agenda item to discuss
Yep.
this probably, but. With the separate legal entity, we really need to factor that into the equation, because EMS and like sheriffs and some of that are different, and E911 and EMA are separate legal entities, so if they're gonna be fully separate, then they have to be treated differently.
It was
Dollar.
also brought up again for the possibility of us leasing to EMA and then allowing EMA to sublease.
I think that would be an absolute disaster.
2 other county departments.
Yeah. So we own as a county, lease it to an outside entity, and then they lease it back to the county? Never.
So that was all discussion, and I said I would bring it up and we could set up, put it on our agenda to discuss things.
I think almost any attorney would laugh at that.
So I think we should get something on the agenda, especially discussing the lease.
Let's do a workshop on that
Yeah.
after our meeting next week.
On the lease for the building?
Yep.
They're fine with the 45-10 split.
That is what they've discussed, and I said it wasn't ever brought back to us officially, we've just heard it in conversation, so.
Yeah, and I've asked Phil multiple times about what the conversations have been had for that when I've had other conversations with him, and I know he said that was tossed out at one point in time, but he said he does have, I think he's got some concerns about that, because if the building is being used as an office and EOC and some of those other things and being heated and maintained to a temp that is more than storage and an occasional meeting here or there, that's not quite a
45.
justified split of utilities if it's kept at a higher operating cost than is really necessary, so.
For what he needs, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, but even what the building was really designed for wasn't or it was not discussed as a intended constant occupation of a building, it was more as needed, obviously maintaining the equipment and stuff that's in there, but not, I mean, I think there's some differences of opinion on how that's handled.
Do you wanna send an email out to the related parties? Or do you want me to?
I think we probably need to just have a discussion as a board on how we wanna handle some things.
So
I
don't
know.
let
Do you
anyone-
guys wanna have everybody here next week, or do you wanna talk about some things as a board and try and have a little bit of a
Better if you have
better
everybody
footing?
involved,
Yeah, I think it would be better to have everybody involved that way.
get everybody's ideas.
Are we gonna set a specific time then? Otherwise we have people who are gonna be sitting here through our entire meeting to see when we get done.
We don't have a big meeting at this point next week, do we?
No.
What do we got next week? Much?
Okay, well, let's talk before you set the agenda, and then we can try and estimate a time for that.
We do need to make sure
And
time
then-
will be available as well, so.
Yeah, and then we can coordinate on who's gonna send out notification
Okay.
at that point.
Yeah,
Okay,
and speaking of kind of, there was another discussion that, EMA is going to be looking for their own,
Attorney.
attorney as, you know, as it's been stated that they are separate from the county, so they are not able to use the county attorney, for their stuff, so that is something that they're gonna be potentially doing a budget amendment to increase their, legal fees and stuff like that for that sort of, going through documents and things like that too. Cause they discussed having an attorney look over the bylaws and things like that too, so.
okay.
Sounds good.
Other than that, yeah, I don't think there was anything else.
Alright. Carter?
I had, last night I guess, went up to Lakota to, Summit's informational meeting on the new branch,
Mm-hmm.
running from Lakota down by Titanca over to Hancock County. Wasn't a whole lot of new information, I was just same stuff over. You know, we'll never have seen better schools, communities, hospitals, yada, 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 and the county will have millions of dollars to spare and whatever, but yeah, just a bunch of the same fluff, and a lot of people talked, and yeah, I actually left before it was all said and done, it was getting late, so, but I don't know how late it actually went. But it was good, I mean, some good questions were asked.
Yep.
Other than that, I had no other meetings.
Alright, so yeah, I brought the whole stack of papers here from that meeting last night, and Carter touched on it already, but in their handout here, they say supporting the Kossuth County community, that they are estimating they will pay $2,986,000 in property taxes to Kossuth County each year. Their estimate shows most of that, 1.446 million will go to schools, 171,000 to community colleges, 52,000 to various townships and cities, and approximately $1,317,000 to the general fund to be used at the county's discretion, which they stated at this meeting that they were centrally assessed by the state, and that you could compare taxes and stuff to some of the sections of the Dakota Access Pipeline, maybe as one of the more recent ones, which I don't know exactly where they would have been taxed for, and if that's even really comparable, because it's not in operation, so like I don't really know if that's a good one to compare to or not, but Carter and I both spoke for couple different times there at the mic last night, but I honed in on the tax side of things, and I think a lot of people voiced concerns about what makes you guys any different than the wind companies that just came in and say they'll fix tile and then they don't, and it's a headache and all that stuff. And I said, dollar wise, I kinda asked the same question, and they said, well, that's obviously, they did say it's due to their estimates on cost and stuff like that, so they could be revised from this point, but that's their projections at this point in time. And I followed up the question with that of, if for some reason their tax bill is lower than this, are they committed to still spending that same amount of dollars for county purposes, school purposes, all that type of stuff, and didn't get an answer real clear, of course, but they did say multiple times that that's what's in their budget and they're planning on spending here, so
But then the state will roll back and we're supposed to.
Yep.
Then it'll be
Yeah.
half that amount or a fourth, and.
Well, we got a third of the amount we were scheduled to get for winter,
Correct.
so.
Yeah, they roll back, every time you roll back a commercial property, it really dings the county.
yeah, so, and I also said I didn't really know how it played in with 718, with the centrally assessed aspect of that. So I'm gonna try and follow up and see what kind of information I can gather on that yet.
Well, their taxes would be substantially lower because of 718.
Well,
Cause
so
everybody's-
they're,
Not their
No.
taxes, what, we wouldn't be able to use all the tax money that they paid because
Well,
of 718.
in essence, actually, it would kind of rebalance everyone else's, because their valuation hypothetically would still be online, but then the actual dollars are still capped, so that's what our limit's based off of. So I asked them if they were aware of that, and judging by the responses I got, I don't think anyone else had ever brought that to their attention. So I don't think they were aware of that previously, but Yeah, and I also left before it was over, I wasn't gonna stay till midnight or whenever it actually finished. So, we were both there for a couple hours at least. Does anyone on the board have any questions about that meeting? Okay,
Did they mention South Dakota and North Dakota?
It was touched on a little
Sporadically,
bit,
yeah.
just by people making comments, but, they didn't really go, well, really, their response was, we're not, involved in the South Dakota court system or in their processes, so we're not gonna
Yeah.
answer those questions.
there was one person that directly asked the staff for the Iowa Utilities Commission about stuff with the other states, and they
Right.
said,
Not gonna comment on
the
that.
short version was, we work for Iowa, not the other states, so they're not gonna touch an answer on that. But they did still talked about sequestering up in, North
North
Dakota.
Yep.
So,
They
and
didn't even mention Illinois.
they said they have 3 sites they're working on permitting for.
So they gave up on Illinois again?
They go back and forth on that, they have room and then they don't, and then they do, and then they don't.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I guess Carter hit a lot of that already. I guess the last thing I was gonna bring up, when we were talking about projects for the TIF area and stuff before, Doug's gonna send off his road projects, but what's the board's thoughts on the grandstand? I mean, I've mentioned that several times, but if we're gonna send that as a project, we need to have some sort of decision or direction if that's being included or not.
Did you have a
It's-
dollar figure in mind?
I had suggested $1 million. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be, like we talked with the road projects, I mean, we got a list of what, probably 60-some million right now, so you wouldn't actually commit funds until dollars were borrowed for it, but if we're talking about saving the possibility of having to amend to add projects in all the time,
Might as well get them all in.
if we list it as a project, then we can address which projects we want to actually build when we do the funding, so, I guess that's my thought, if we're throwing everything in right now, I think that should be included, that's something I feel is important, I guess, I don't.
In visiting with other counties, the majority of, who would use TIF, majority of those dollars goes to roads and bridges, of course. But then it's been used for other building projects as well, so it's not out of the ordinary to do that. But
Yeah, I know several examples, but,
I'm on board with it.
yeah,
I think it needs to be included, otherwise it's not an option.
well, otherwise I mean, we
Or you
talked,
have
We'd have to do it
yeah,
on
and
that,
pay the attorney to amend it, so.
and one of the things, I guess, that would separate the grandstands from a road or bridge project, in my opinion, is they're actively paying a consultant to help raise money. So the quicker that capital campaign is completed, the less money hypothetically would be spent on a consultant. So if that campaign drags on for 3 or 5 years versus being done in 1 or 2, that's hypothetically a realistic cost savings to the project and to those dollars that would be committed towards the grandstand,
Remember,
as a whole.
you won't be able to use the internal loan for that, you're gonna have to wait
Correct.
to
Yep.
do the.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
where if we do financing, it could be, decided which projects we're building at
Can't do
that
it
point.
without outside finance.
Right.
Yeah, yep.
And then,
Then your payback on it has to match somehow how you finance it.
Right, so that would be addressed at the time we do financing.
Right, and that wouldn't be this year.
Well, no, it wouldn't, especially if we do a internal loan for a bridge or a paving project or something right away first.
Right.
You would structure that first, so I mean, yeah, that would all be sorted out at the financing time frame. But I think if we're throwing the laundry list of projects at it, we should include this one.
My only concern is that you don't do it too soon in the TIF, because you have to have the revenue coming back from the TIF districts to pay off on it. So it's gonna have to match how you
Which-
get your loan.
But that'd be structured with the financing side.
Right.
Yep.
As long as you structure it correctly,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be against it, but if you don't do it correctly, it could cause some financial hardship to the county, and that wouldn't be right.
Yeah,
Carter, you said other counties use the funds for buildings, do you mean county buildings? What do you mean by buildings?
Yeah, conservation or with the auditors, buildings and
Because-
those kinds of building projects. I understand the grandstand is not a county-owned building.
Correct.
And other counties have used TIF areas for non-county owned buildings as well, as far as new development. But that's,
For economic development, but this would be
Correct.
different than that.
that's what you would consider economic development.
So you're gonna consider grandstands economic development.
I would fully consider that economic
I would,
development.
I mean, you look at Palo Alto County, nothing against their fair, but they don't get the people that we do. Or that Hancock County does, because we have a raceway and we have options that they don't have.
But, I mean, you have to defend what you're going to do. I'm not gonna be here, Jack's not gonna be here, but you have to defend it. So be prepared to defend whatever you do and whatever projects you put in it.
And that'd be conversations with our attorney and all that as well, on
I think
things that
it's,
would qualify.
it's a gray area whether that's economic development or not.
Have you talked to an attorney on that?
No, I just said my own opinion, it's a gray area.
Okay.
We had the attorney and consultant on the phone, and that,
Yeah.
they said it was, so.
Yeah,
But did they realize it wasn't county-owned property?
Right.
We discussed that in that meeting too, but
pretty
I-
sure we did.
it's all, I mean, this is not the last conversation, so.
Right,
I think there's more hurdles to jump through before you bond $1 million for the grandstand.
right, this
I think you
isn't,
should have some public discussion and you should have some input because it is taxpayers' dollars.
and all those things go through a public hearing process, so, yeah, this is far from the last conversation about it, but if we don't put it in at the front end, we either have to amend the plan to put it in, or we don't do it, so.
The point I'm trying to make is you have people sitting here right now, and I'm not against it, but I'm saying it's not near done yet, it's not a done deal.
No, I never said
Release that to the private, because there's private promoters that use that for the race.
Fairground runs it, the fair board.
But there's a private promoter that,
We've done it, ever since Joe Ringsdorf left. The fair board took it over.
but, so Reefer was running it
All
before.
around, we just paid Ron to put the show on.
Oh, okay.
It's all our equipment, it's all our people that we hire, we take care of all the finances.
Okay.
The fair board does it all.
Mhm.
And it does bring in some money to keep the fair moving.
Okay.
Costs are very high.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of ways that project in particular could be structured, but I mean, I think it's a worthwhile project to list on if we're throwing everything in, that's my only point, I guess.
Well, I have no problem putting it in there, it's gonna be the next board that's gonna decide whether we're doing it or not, so.
Okay,
No harm in including it.
I don't know about
Okay.
$1 million, I think that's a little excessive myself, but I'd be more inclined to say something like $250,000. not more than $500,000. I don't think we have to pay for the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be paying for the whole thing.
No,
That's still half of it.
still gotta answer to all the taxpayers.
What's the
When-
first part of the process? I'm just curious, like to do this.
Yeah, I'll just answer real briefly, but the, two major parts are the urban renewal area and then the projects that go with that. So the urban renewal area describes, the components of what's being taxed and the projects that those dollars are going to support. So that's first part, then financing those projects is kind of the second part. Because you can't build the projects without the financing, and you can't collect the TIF money without having the financing. Already
Debt.
outstanding debt, yep,
Yeah.
so they
So when
correlate,
you're doing
but
the public hearing, that's just to establish the area? 'Cause
yeah,
isn't
the
that
first
on
part
this
here
sheet?
is the area,
I
That's
kinda
to-
missed what you said.
That's
for
to
this
set
year.
the date and time for the public hearing.
Okay,
right,
okay.
yeah, that's just setting those hearings,
And at that hearing, it's established for the area and the projects?
Projects.
yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, and I mean, dollar figure could always be less, obviously, if that decision's made at the time of financing, but we could say 2 million in the, list of projects and still only finance 500,000 or $1 million or whatever at the time of financing, but that's your limits, so.
Right.
That's, I think, that's kinda encompassed in my suggestion there, but. Okay, well, yes, do you wanna coordinate with Amy to add that in, or we can together after the meeting or whatever?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Alright, anything else for board discussion? Alright. Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. If there's nothing else. Alright, is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. We are adjourned at 9:50.